Hi there, I'm Mike. What I have for you today is Star Wars The Black Series, Toys R Us exclusive / Disney Store exclusive, Captain Phasma with Quicksilver Baton. That's how it's denoted on the box. Take a look at this picture of Captain Phasma while I read the bio on the back of the box. Captain Phasma and a squad of elite First Order troopers capture the Resistance heroes Finn and Rose, who have infiltrated Snoke's flagship, the Supremacy. Before Phasma can eliminate them, a series of unforeseen events lead to a dramatic battle between Phasma and Finn. Here's Captain Phasma out of the box, and I never actually reviewed the original Captain Phasma, so honestly, could probably just count this as a review for both, and I will be going over the differences because it's mostly the same, but not quite. Captain Phasma is portrayed by Gwendoline Christie, a very tall person who is in Game of Thrones. She's Brienne of Tarth. When I saw her in the original Force Awakens trailer, I was like, wow, that's a shiny chrome trooper. I really want a toy of that. That was pretty much the only thing I really needed. It was a cool looking trooper. That was it. The inside of me was satisfied with just having that be the only reason I needed to buy an action figure of it. So let's start off with my normal start off point, the looks. Does this figure look like the figure on the screen? And the answer is, kinda. The biggest problem with Captain Phasma as a figure from the Black Series, and this applies to both of them, is that in the movie, she has a very, very shiny surface. This figure just has a dull silver paint sheen. There's no chrome, there's no reflectiveness. Hasbro, you've done reflective surfaces on a smaller scale. My C-3PO had a shiny gold finish back when I was a kid. Yeah, I know it rubs off over time, but this is not a figure made for kids. This is a figure made for adults. And as such, I would have really liked to have seen a figure that is as shiny as what I saw in the movie, because that is all I needed to want to buy it, was that shiny fig. Give me the shiny thing. That's all I want. Other than that, yeah, she looks fine. She's got a cape, she's got her armor. The armor looks like just a shiny version of, you know, the Stormtrooper armor. And then she is taller than the normal Stormtrooper, because Gwendoline Christie is tall. She is a very large person. And like, not fat, she's just proportionately huge. She's a huge person. And that's one of the things that makes Captain Phasma stand out. She's sort of a Boba Fett character, where it's like, yeah, she looks cool. There's a lot of mystique there. What's gonna happen? And then kind of nothing, just like Boba Fett. I'm gonna give her a 0.5, I guess, for looks. Like, it's not there, but it's also not there. So just right in the middle. Which moves us over to accessories. The only thing the original figure came with was a hard molded plastic cape and then also a gun. And that was pretty much it, nothing else. This new figure has a nice cloth cape, a Quicksilver Baton as denoted by the box, but also a smaller non-extended version of that baton, which is also nice. Like, they didn't have to do that at all. I would never have thought, oh man, we got the full version of the baton, but I would have loved to have had a small version of that baton. I would have never thought that. But I'm not complaining that I got it. And then also the gun. Now, as far as I can tell, the gun is the same. The baton, while being the same silver color that Phasma is, does have some molding on there. There's a little bit of molding on the sides, but mostly it's just a pretty plain looking baton, but that's fine because that's how it looked in the movie. Now, it was also kind of silver, chromy, and shiny in the movie, and it's dull in this, so that's another thing I wish that it had matched that, but it would have been weird if this had matched it and, you know, not Phasma herself. So I'm glad that this matches Phasma, but I wish they both had been shiny. But I've already docked off points for that in the original, so I'm not gonna double dock points for it. So I really like the accessories that this comes with. It's cool because now that she has an extra weapon, I don't feel bad just sticking her gun on her leg, which is something that you can do, although it is kind of prone to falling off. I will say, this Phasma also should have come with a small pistol, because she did have that in the movie, but I think that was a deleted scene, and it was a deleted scene that was really good. But as far as accessories goes, she gets the full point. As far as accessories for the original Phasma goes, yeah, I think it's actually pretty much the same, actually. But one of the nice things about the cape is that being not thick molded plastic, it gives the head more room to wiggle, which brings us over to articulation. Let's take a look at articulation right now. Phasma's head moves side to side. It goes forward this much, back this much. Has a little bit of a waggle, but not much. The arm goes all the way around, out that far. Bend at the elbow. Also a swivel. Hinge and swivel at the wrist. Diaphragm swivel. It moves forward this much, and back this much. The legs move out this far, forward this far, back this far. Upper thigh rotation, double jointed leg, ankle hinge, and pivot. With this being Phasma's widest stance with both feet flat on the ground. So for the most part, the articulation on both figures is the same. Like I said, the head has a little bit more waggle on the new figure because of the more room that the thinner cape kind of gives it. The body is the exact same molding, so the articulation is pretty much the exact same. I would have loved more articulation, especially in the elbow point. She really needs a more than 90-degree angle. She needs to come up to here on that, and it's a huge bummer that she's not as bad as this First Order Stormtroopers, but she's still not really where a trooper should be in terms of elbow articulation. This one's getting 0.75, but the original figure is only getting a half a point for that. And that brings us over to detail and sculpt. Now again, I'm not gonna dock it for being not as shiny as I think it should be. The original figure is fine. They have a lot of the great sculpting and the details that you really think that they should have. But what's neat about this is having the same character, but with one of each type of cape that people always say. Like, I feel like people always want the opposite. If they do a hard molded plastic cape, people say, oh, it should have been cloth goods. If people do cloth goods, some people say, it should have been a hard cape. And they both have their merits. The cloth cape gives you a lot more detail. It gives you a nice pose. You can just make it look a lot better visually. The cloth cape typically doesn't hinder articulation, which is nice. And some people just like the feel of the cloth a little bit better than the hard molded plastic, which I get. This doesn't feel natural in your hand, but at the same time, this doesn't really lay naturally because the cloth isn't heavy enough. You can see coming over the shoulders for both of these figures that the shoulder on this one looks like the cape hangs a lot more naturally, which, you know, is one of those things. So it's a pretty interesting study in that. I think there's pros and cons to both. But between these two, I think I actually prefer the cloth cape on this one. I think the pros outweigh the cons here. She still does have her red stripe coming down the side there. Other than that, the molding, the painting is the exact same. There's no difference except for the obvious burn marks down the side of her face. And that is where this figure shines. That is what was most surprising about this figure. When I saw that there was Phasma in this movie and she was holding a baton, I thought to myself, okay, just like the Rey before her, we're gonna get a repack of the same figure, but this time it's gonna have an extra accessory in the box. And I was more than prepared to just buy the stupid figure. I was expecting it even to have the same number, but I was wrong. Instead, we have this masterpiece, and I say masterpiece very seriously. It could have been better with that shiny paint, like I said earlier. This figure more than makes up for it with the paint applied to give it that battle-worn look. I'm gonna start with the chest because that's the easy one to talk about. The original Phasma obviously has no marking. She's pristine, and that's fine. That's how she looked in the movie. This one though, after her fight with Finn, after the Supremacy gets rammed at light speed, during that fight there were lots of explosions. You know, he had his little baton thing. What we have here is a very interestingly colored and interestingly painted mark down the front. It's like a gash, like a scar down the front armor plating of her chest. But on the top here is where it really shines. We have that same kind of paint job coming up the mask, but the mask also has like gouges coming out of it, like it took chunks out of it. And that is absent from the chest mark. It's just discoloration on the chest. But the helmet actually is missing chunks, and that is just super neat. But the piece de resistance isn't just that has a gash in there, isn't just the paint job, it's that they've molded a face underneath here. You can see her eyes underneath the helmet, and that just blew my mind that they would put that much detail into this figure. They could have easily cheaped out and just done what I was expecting, and I would have not been wowed, but I wouldn't have really been disappointed. It was what I expected. But I really feel like Hasbro, while not completely redoing the figure, made this different enough to make me absolutely head over heels for it. I absolutely love the detail work that they put in here. The only thing that I really wish they had done in terms of maybe a little bit of articulation, maybe a little bit of paint detail, is one of her hands should have been removable. And I say that because in the deleted scene of that fight, I know it's a deleted scene, so it's probably not canon. I don't think it's actually canon. If deleted scenes were canon, Shaak Ti's died like 100 times. She loses her hand in a deleted scene. No, her hand does not come off. It would have been neat if they had done that little detail, but again, that's not enough to really break it. But because of this new cape and because of that detail on the helmet, I'm giving this figure the full point in detail and sculpt. So let's talk about want/availability. As I said before, I kind of expected this figure to come out, and I was honestly a little disappointed when it didn't happen. I thought that was an easy win for Hasbro to make more money, so I thought that I was just wrong. And then suddenly, one day, this figure came out, and then I saw it, and the expectation went from, yeah, I'll buy it, to, oh yeah, I want that. That is the thing that I want. The weird part is that it came out with absolutely no warning. I can't think of any other figure that's come out without some kind of announcement beforehand, but this literally just showed up on Canadian Toys R Us shelves. And I messaged Papa Gord and I said, yo, take a look at this. And then he responded with, on it. And within an hour, he had a picture of himself with 2, and that's when I knew. I love that man. So this figure comes from the Great White North via my Canadian Santa Claus, Papa Gord, because he is a Toys R Us exclusive. And you might say, but Mike, Toys R Us doesn't exist anymore. Well, turns out it does in Canada. The box even has a fun Toys R Us exclusive sticker, which I thought I would never see again. For about a month or so, we were all kind of confused over would anyone else outside of Canada see this figure. And as it turns out, I think at San Diego Comic-Con, they announced that this figure would be a Disney Store exclusive sometime in the fall, November time, which it is practically November now. Now, I haven't heard of anyone actually finding this yet, but I would expect to find it, honestly, anytime. And if you don't have a Disney Store around you, check their website. They're usually pretty good, but because of that weird kind of time frame of when this came out versus when we found out that the rest of the world was gonna get it, I'm gonna give this a 0.5. It was kind of a weird, scary time where I thanked all of whoever needs to be thanked that I had a friend like Gord who could get me a figure and I wouldn't have to like tear my beard out being afraid that I was gonna miss out on this figure that I desperately wanted once I saw it. Now it could be that once she comes out at the Disney Store, she'll be plentiful and everyone will get their fill and there'll be tons of them lying around and it's not so hard to get. So that gives us, I believe, a final score of 3.75 out of 5 for this. However, this figure is gonna get a final score of 3.5 out of 5. It's very okay. This one has that little bit extra that I just absolutely love. I think it's amazing. And I honestly think that if you like the newer sequels and you just like cool looking characters or you just like troopers, there's a lot of different reasons why you might want to buy this figure. Even if you don't really like the sequels, I think troopers are cool. And I think that when she comes out, she's an easy buy. She's basically the sequel trilogy's Boba Fett. She looks cool and just kind of doesn't really do much. So that's it for my Captain Phasma review. What did you think? Did it speak to you? Did I get you excited for it? Or just confirm that you don't really care about the sequels? I don't know, whatever, it's fine. Just like Star Wars, that's what I do. But thanks for watching. Thanks for getting this far. Let me know in the comments what you thought. Go ahead and like, share, subscribe if you want to. Down in the downstairs area, there's a couple different ways you can help out my channel if you want. And thanks for getting this far. Bye.